Christmas was in the air and break was just around the corner. Tyler Thomas, tied to her friends, was in the prime of her life at 19 years old. She grew up in Bellevue, Nebraska, and came to Peru State College in Peru, Nebraska. She was a college freshman and ready to conquer the world until that night that she went missing in the very early morning of December 3rd, 2010. Hi, my name is Sean, and welcome back. If you are a subscriber, if this is your first time here, then enjoy. Please subscribe and follow for more true crime. It's Christmas time, and back in 2010, Tyler went missing. And I thought that would be a good one to do for right now because it happened right now. Ty was like any other typical college student, eager to learn, eager to have fun. And that night that she went missing, she was intoxicated, according to sources. They said that she was drinking beer and tequila at an off-campus party. She left the party after having an argument with a friend. She was last seen near 5th and Nebraska Street in Peru. This was really close to her dormitory, but still texted a friend saying that she didn't know where she was. An hour later, or an hour and a half later, they reported her missing because she never came back to her dorm. This was about 3 in the morning. They were worried because she was drunk and the temperatures were in the teens, and she wasn't wearing a coat. That was still in her dorm. Search parties were formed to look for the young lady. News stations swarmed the town to cover the story. As reporters normally do, they interviewed many of the students. One of the students was Joshua Keadle. He stated that the morning that Ty disappeared, he saw her walking as he and some friends came back into town after seeing a movie. He even told this to the police, but quickly his story started to change, and this was the start of the end for him. His friends were also interviewed by the police. Even though their names are public knowledge, I'm just using their first name to try to give them some privacy. Jerica stated that when they got back from the movie, they saw Ty walking on campus. They said that they planned on going off to smoke some pot, but Keadle said that he just wanted to go back to his dorm room. And then he never returned. She said that the next morning she had text messages from multiple students, including Keadle, saying that Ty was missing. Another movie attendee was Jacob, and he stated that he didn't see Keadle again until lunch the next day. And when he saw Keadle, he asked him, "If anyone says anything, can you tell them that I was with you guys last night?" And Jacob really didn't think anything of it at the time, so he agreed. A classmate of Jacob's named Jason, or not Jacob, sorry, of Keadle's named Jason, stated that after Ty disappeared, Keadle asked him to hold a gun for him. There was no indication in the crime that a gun was ever involved in her disappearance, but that was just kind of an odd piece of evidence. 5 days later, after Ty's disappearance, Keadle was arrested. His stories kept changing when officers would talk to him. He first stated that he did not pick her up that night. Then later he stated that he did pick her up that night and they drove down to the river. And then he said that she performed some sex act on him for a ride to Omaha. And then the argument started. She threatened to accuse him of rape, and he didn't want any of that, so he stated that he drove away from her and left her behind at the docks next to the river, Missouri River. Of course, once he got back to his dorm, he decided to take a shower to wash off any evidence of their encounter. When investigators went to the bank of the river to check where he said that he left her, they did find tire track marks that matched his vehicle, but they also found drag marks from those tire tracks to the edge of the river. Since they didn't have a body, they only charged him with false information and tampering with evidence since he took a shower. But he was denied bond. Now here's where a lot of it gets muddier, or, well, not really muddy for him, I guess. Court records showed that he was charged the previous month for damaging a door on campus. And for this and failing classes, he was on the brink of expulsion from school, as a security officer, or the director of security, had requested this just to expel him right away because he was failing classes and he was destructive. Also, within the first few weeks of attending school there, a couple girls had already accused him of sexual harassment. The school did not find it warranted to expel him, but they were not going to let him return for a second semester. You know, if they would have expelled him right away, would this have never happened? You know, that's one of those interesting quandaries. He also had some theft charges from Dodge County from a 2009 incident. And then the big ones start coming out. He was also charged at the same time that he was charged for Ty's disappearance. He was also charged with felony rape and false imprisonment of another Peru college student. Apparently, a little over a month before Ty disappeared, on Halloween night, he sexually assaulted a female student 3 different times. Coincidentally, one of the first rapes that he did took place at the boat docks or the shore where he left Ty. She said that he threatened her life while they're down at the river if she didn't perform on him. And her explanation was saying that he was pointing toward the river as, hey, you know what? You could disappear pretty easily in there. She came forward because they had already arrested him, and that she felt this was, you know, a good time to show, hey, maybe he did the same thing to Ty. Of course, this was not the end of his onslaught of horror, because soon after his arrest, a teenager from Fremont, Nebraska, had came forward claiming that he raped her back in April of 2008 when she was only 15 years old. At this time, it was at the Midland University in Fremont. He was visiting a friend, and apparently the friend and that girl fooled around, and when she was asleep, he assaulted her. So that was another case that came up against him. Yet another accusation came up against him too. A woman in Norfolk, Nebraska came forward after images of Keadle. After Keadle was aired, she saw the pictures and went, oh wait, this guy did this. And she claimed that she was walking through a parking lot when he stopped his car and spoke to her. She said that he offered her as much as $1,500 for sex and then exposed himself to her. I could not find any other information besides that on. I can't find if they went any further or anything like that. I mean, I've never called the courts to find out, but I'm wondering if they just let it go as circumstantial. I don't know. At this time, he was attending Wayne State College in Wayne, Nebraska. At this time, a spokesman for the college stated that she was not aware of any disciplinary problems that he might have had at Wayne State, and that he just dropped out of his enrollment and left the college. Now, personally, I grew up in Wayne, so I know people that were there when he was, and some of them, including a teacher, said that there was other circumstances that there might not have been criminal activity, but there were some accusations, and it was just an aura that he gave out. He was not really liked at Wayne State, apparently. 2 years after Ty's disappearance, in March of 2012, Keadle was convicted of the raping of the 15-year-old girl. He was sentenced to 15 to 20 years, and he was also placed on the sex offenders registry. The unfortunate thing for this was he would have been eligible for parole in 2018. So they had to start moving fast. Ty's parents decided to sue the school and Keadle, and in May of 2016, her parents were awarded a civil suit against Keadle in the amount of, and this is a little weird, but $2.64 billion in damages. This amount included $80 million for the wrongful death and $100 million for pain and suffering, and then an additional $30 million for emotional distress, as well as $2.4 billion with a B in punitive damages. Now, Nebraska state law states that if there's any punitive damages awarded in a civil suit, that it is to be paid to the local school districts. So that's a nice thing. Unfortunately, since the courts had it only toward Keadle, and he has no assets, and it's likely the family will never get paid since he's in prison and has no way to make any funds. The lawsuit against the school, though, was dropped as they said that they had no way of knowing the risk of violent behavior from him. Even though the family brought forth that security officer that wanted him to be expelled from school, because apparently he said that when he came to Peru State, they had already known about one of the rapes, and that was one of the extenuating circumstances on why he wanted to get him out of the school. But the school denies any of that, and I believe, if I read it correctly, the security officer was terminated soon after he was pushing for Keadle's expulsion. Now, since they have never found Ty's body, in November of 2013, a judge declared her legally deceased. So that's the reason her parents could sue for the civil, and then the state could actually eventually move forward with charges of murder against Keadle. And finally, in October of 2017, he was charged with first-degree murder in Ty's case. A man named Corey Pfeiffer came forward to state that when he was in the same jail as Keadle, Keadle admitted to killing Ty. He said that he drove her down by the river where they had sex, and that the officials would never find her body. So this was damning enough to get him convicted, and the trial started, In early 2020, you know, the year of hell, in February already, he was found guilty. The jury only deliberated for 9 hours. So you figure that this is, you know, a murder trial where they have no body and still they only deliberated for 9 hours. Which some people would think that seems like a long time to deliberate, but there are many court cases out there that they take days and days and days to deliberate everything, and they found him guilty. Now, granted, they did go with the lesser charge of second-degree murder, but it's still murder. In July of 2020, he was sentenced to 71 years in prison. He will be eligible for parole after serving 35 years in prison. So, sometime when he's in his mid to late 60s. You know, Tyler wanted to become a teacher, and I guess she taught us what type of a person Keadle was. A rapist and a murderer. Now, there's a couple reasons I wanted to do this story for Ty. I remember when this happened, and it was one of the first serious cases that actually made me start liking true crime. Because I remember reading all the news articles and watching all the news stories about it. And if I was able, I mean, I lived about 2.5 hours away, 2.5 hours away. And if I was able to, I probably would have gone and tried to help the search party. I was just very much enthralled. I don't know why. And every little thing, I mean, it seemed like every day something else would pop up. It's like, oh, well, this woman accused him of rape. Oh, this woman did too. Hey, guess what? He did this in Norfolk. Oh, yeah, he lived in Wayne and did this. And it was just one thing after another, and it's just like very interesting. So it's just something that stuck with me ever since it happened. As a parent myself, I hope that this would never, ever happen to one of my boys. I mean, what happened to Ty? I sure as hell know that they won't become Keadle, because they'd have to deal with me. And that's just not going to go well. But for her parents, I wish they'd find her body. Now, I know it's been 12 years now, but not knowing as a parent, not having that closure, not having having her body is heartbreaking. It's very, very heartbreaking. And I hope her family are functioning and moving forward. And I know it's probably a hard thing, but it's just really sad. I can't imagine their pain. And I wish that they could get every penny awarded to them for the civil suit. But unfortunately, yeah, I don't think they'll get anything, and it sucks. Yeah, the money's not going to bring her back. The money doesn't even help much with the pain. I think I read something one time after it happened that they were going to use some of the money toward charities and things that Ty would have liked. And that's pretty honorable. So, to her parents, I'm sorry. You guys are in my heart. You're in my thoughts. And to Keadle, I hope he never gets out. There's no reason for him to get up. And I hate to say it, but I hope he's getting the same exact treatment in prison that he treated some of the ladies in his wake of destruction. So, please like, subscribe, and follow. I'll see you next time. It won't be until after Christmas, but I'll get one more done before the end of the year. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Feliz Navidad, any other holiday that you celebrate, have a good one. If you don't celebrate anything, then have a great Sunday. Take care. Love one another. Peace.